Dr. Or.
They broke into the mall for the wildest all-night party of their lives.
Get that meat.
But you're never alone in the shopping mall.
What's that?
Robot blood. Shopping mall, where shopping costs you an arm and a leg.
And now, an exciting message from Burger King.
We know you're watching the game, but you're waiting for something more exciting. Ready? Broiling beef frying nearly 2-to-1 in a coast-to-coast survey. Not better than baseball? Think about it. Nearly 2 out of 3 people chose broiling. Burger King broils. McDonald's and Wendy's fry. Okay, now back to baseball. But the second it's over, everybody up. Click off your sets. Come on to Burger King.
They've played a part in just about every horror movie, just like the token black guy. Their fate is sealed to a brutal death just because they're hot and dumb. So what if Casey forgot to lock the door? Home invasion and trespassing are illegal, and that should be enough to deter a mass killer, right? So what if Marcy ran out into the rain wearing nothing but her underwear? Are you telling me you haven't done the same? Because I do every night in my backyard while proudly singing the American anthem. So what if Chloe went to the woods in high heels, tripped and fell as a killer came behind her? How was she supposed to know that the woods would be inhabited by a serial killer? Who plans for that? I mean, it's not like there are bears and other predators to watch out for. Bimbo lives matter. These hot, sexy, brainless women are treated like a joke, like a piece of eye candy, and killed off as if they're not even a person. So I say it's time to make a stand and say, Bimbo lives matter. And this totally has nothing to do with me wanting a movie where a bunch of strippers beat up Jason and Michael Myers. Nothing at all. Bimbo lives matter.
Just for the rock of it, just for the roll of it. Diet Coke. Just for the look of it, just for the kick of it. The real cola taste.
Oh man, how is it going, guys? How are y'all doing? Oh man. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about Gunt Creepypasta. Tell stories, real stories. Well, these are definitely very real in a sense are horrifying, creepy. Lock up your daughters. The Gunt is on the prowl. He's coming for him. Coming for him. If you're a coin merchant and your daughter's left in her room, left to her own devices, with the door closed on Discord, you better go in there. You better kick down that door because she's being groomed, son. She's being groomed. The Gunt, the 300-pound terror, drunken terror from Memphis, is on the prowl. He's coming. He stalks. Rumor has it, legend has it, that when you say Ethan Ralph is 5'1", 5 times in front of a mirror, he'll come at you. Now, it takes a while. It takes a while for that amount of pounds to move. But just give it a minute. Give it a long minute. And eventually it'll come. Don't believe me? Try it. Try it. But I'm going to warn you, don't do it. There hasn't been anyone who has come back from that. Not a single person. Now, there might be some people who try it and be like, oh, well, nothing happened to me. I said Ethan Ralph is 5'1", 5 times in front of a mirror, and nothing happened. Well, did you have a burger, a trash burger? Did you have some Maker's Mark available? Did you have a 17-year-old ready and able? Did you have those 3 things? If not, then, well, that's probably why it didn't work. That might be why it didn't work. Anyway, yeah, we do have some stories to tell, and all related somehow to Ethan Ralph, the Gunt. I decided, hey, let's have some fun tonight. Tell some creepypasta stories about a locale that we all, on this channel anyway, strongly disavow and disapprove of. You can say even hate. You can say that. I hate you, Ethan Ralph. I hate you. Okay? With every bone in my body. And right now, he's in Las Vegas. But he's been really quiet lately, hasn't he? He's been real quiet. Now, there is a chance that somebody could watch his stream, watch it later, and be like, I don't even know who Ethan Ralph is. Feel free to check out the other streams on this channel. But here we go. Let's start off with a few things here. Ethan Ralph is 5'1". No, it's not true. Definitely don't say Corey Barnhill. Okay? Don't say his name 5 times if you're trying to summon Ethan Ralph. It's not going to work. All right. So we got some stories. Call of the Gunt. Got a little poetry. Got some stories. So let's get this started. You guys ready? All right. Call of the Gunt. And out to the my voice. And out of the crack shack the Gunt did call. Lawsuits and pregnancy he brought to them all. Ran away the children to hide under their bed. Away the children ran to hide under their bed. For fear that the Gunt would rape them until bred. Oh shit. That got dark. Let me do this. Let me do this justice. Call of the Gunt. And out of the crack shack the Gunt did call. Lawsuits and pregnancy he brought to them all. Away ran the children to hide under their bed. For the fear that the Gunt would rape them until bred. Nice start.
Do you hate him enough to shake him and show pics of him half naked with his bro?
Oh, I hate him more than that. I hate him more than that. Let's see. All right, let's get started with the next one here. What's this? Some Gunt poetry. Let's see. So some refer to him as the Gunt, whereas others refer to him as the Fat Man. It's been rumored that children were found huddled in the cellar, fear caught in their eyes. They dare not to move or breathe as the Fat Man tells them lies. Promises of fortune and fame, it whispers into their ear. Terrorized by the memory of last time he came, when he took someone dear. Hooves start scratching on the outside walls, banging on the windows. Let me come inside you, it calls. Atmosphere is electric as it lumbers down the stairs. Hiding in the darkness is so futile from its glare. The Gunt, this is crazy. The Gunt comes in an instant, filling their tummies with drunk cummies. The girls become single parents until the demon babies emerge from the womb and feast on their flesh and blood. Okay. The rhyming scheme got lazy at the end, but I like the beginning of it. Let's get to the heart of this. That was stuff that people sent to me to read. That was okay. Let's do Horseface. The story of Horseface. You guys ready? The story of Horseface. I think that poem I read, it sounded awfully like Nightcrawler by Judas Priest, so it could have just been that. All right. This story is called Horseface. It goes something like this. I never believed it. I thought it was just some stupid tale my grandfather told me to keep me away from the river at night. He always told me the story before bedtime, and the old man seemed to take delight in scaring me. The tale always went the same way. There once was a woman who lived in a very poor section of West Virginia, a place that smelled of shit and decomposing dumpster babies. This woman was known as Horseface because of her freakishly ugly face. Rumor has it that she had a face that would cause one to vomit on sight, a face so absolutely vile and disgusting that mere glimpse of it would cause one to self-inflict tremendous damage to their eyes in hopes that the image would go away. This vile creature of a woman was also a mother, but she wasn't just any mother. She was the mother of a baby people around these parts referred to as the piglet. Rumor has it that when the baby was delivered, hospital staff thought it was a pig, and they begged Horseface to give them permission to terminate it. But despite the numerous requests from hospital staff, Horseface was determined to keep the baby. She told him that she loved this abomination, and for what it's worth, she probably did. She was probably the only thing in this world that could see past its deformed face, its big snout of a nose, and beady little eyes. But there was a problem. Horseface's husband and the father of Piglet, Ethan Ralph, was a notorious drunk and womanizer. He spent night after night away from home, drinking whiskey and yelling about the downfall of the white race, things that Horseface loved to partake in, but she was homebound with a child and could no longer drink
in excess. One night, Horseface went through Ethan Ralph's phone while he was asleep and found a video of him thumbing the butthole of another woman and sniffing it. Horseface knew this as Ethan Ralph's signature move, something he did to women he felt passionate about. And this drove her insane. She went to purge her life of everything and anything Ethan Ralph. She took a knife to Ethan Ralph's throat as he slept. She then took the piglet in her arms, ran to the river. Though her heart burned with rage, her eyes flowed with tears, and for she loved this baby very much. She did. She did, ladies and gentlemen. She loved this baby. With her face buried in her hands, she produced a horrible blood... Despite the love, I should say. Let me backtrack. Despite the love, she tossed the baby into the river and collapsed to her knees. With her face buried in her hands, she produced a horrible, blood-chilling cry, a cry that those around referred to as the sound of a dying well. A sound that apparently haunts this place to this day. According to the legend, no one really knows what happened to Horseface. Many speculate that she killed herself, but her body has never been found. Now, for my story, I had just turned 17. I was tired of hearing grandfather's tale of Horseface. I thought he was just being a senile old man, kind of like a Biden. So my friends and I went down to the river after hearing that somebody had recently drowned. We laughed, opened a couple beers to pass the time. As the night got longer, we mocked the legend of Horseface, when all of a sudden, this horrible wailing like that of a dying well, had started to sound out of nowhere. It was so bad that we had to cover our eyes to stop from going deaf. When we opened our eyes and uncovered our ears, the wailing had stopped. My friends and I looked at each other and thought, okay, there had to be somebody playing a prank on us. We had told everybody that we were going to disprove the legend tonight, the legend of Horseface. But nobody was around, at least that we could see. We regained our courage and walked to the river's edge. At least I did. I turned around. I laughed at my friends. They stayed behind by the truck like a bunch of pansies. But those pansies were pointing at something behind me. I turned around and came face to face with the Horseface herself. I immediately felt sick to my stomach, released a violent wave of vomit. Horseface wasn't fazed. She released another ear-piercing wail before and grabbed my arms. Before I could realize what had happened, Horseface dragged me into the water. I tried to fight her off. At least I wanted to. But my body was not responding. I died. I died that night, drowning, and now my spirit is with the others, with all the others. And we all watch as she walks along the river, and she wails her ugly cry, forced to spend eternity staring at her hideous face. We're motivated to find others for her to torment. Horseface, the legend of Horseface. Be careful. Careful when you're near a river at night. If you hear a sound that sounds like a banshee, be cautious. Don't just go towards that river. Don't go chasing that sound. Or do it and record the whole thing. See what happens. How's it going, Chad? Take a little break. Surfer isn't that ugly. Horseface being surfer. Okay. They kept PPP in the end. Yeah. Found her body on OnlyFans. 10 out of 10 would fap again. Who? Horseface? Oh. Gross. Disgusting. Oh. I don't think there's a worse thing one can do. That's pretty brave of you, ZXV, to admit that. ZXV found the OnlyFans for Horseface and fapped to it. You would simp for her? Would simp for Horseface? Last story was pretty good. Yeah. The next one is the 5-1. Next one is a little bit longer. It's also, it's child friendly, actually. A lot of this story, there's no real profanity in it, I don't think. It's more a line of a goosebump sort of thing. Alright. It's called 5-1. The Legend of 5-1. There we go. Yeah, it's a little bit longer. There's dialogue, there's characters. The whole thing. Don't expect me to do voices, but we'll get to it. Go for more atmosphere. It was around October when it happened. I was home alone and outside riding bikes with my friends Kenny and Mark. Kenny was skinnier and taller than me, but not by much. Kenny had blonde hair, wore glasses, dressed in long sleeves and jeans. Mark, on the other hand, was short, pudgier, and wore extra large shirts and baggy shorts. Okay. Kenny, Mark, and I were riding around the block, shooting airsoft guns at one another. Though we started out with teams, or without teams. Well, these shades don't make it easy. Though we started out without teams, Kenny and Mark ended up ganging up on me, and I felt the plastic pellets pinching my skin while I hurried to get away. I pedaled faster to gain some distance between us and took a turn I rarely take. I kept on going, happy that I got away from them, but I wasn't paying attention to where I was going. I ended up at the cul-de-sac my parents warned me about, and in front of me stood an old, dilapidated brick house with boarded windows and a rusted chain-link fence. I heard rubber skid across pavement and turned to find Kenny and Mark staring at the house. "This place gives me the creeps," Kenny said. I remember my father telling me about this house, about the abandoned house after a murder-suicide. According to my dad, a notorious drunk named Ethan killed his horse-faced wife and baby before taking his own life. Due to the graphic murder and the caustic toxins that secreted from the man's gunt, the house is off limits to anyone. "I think we should leave," I said. "Are you kidding?" Mark said as he climbed off his bike. "We should totally go in there." "My parents would kill me," I said. "Good thing your parents aren't home. They wouldn't know unless you tell them." Mark approached the gate, tried to open it, but it was locked by a chain and padlock. "The sign says no trespassing," Kenny said. "Don't be a girl about this," said Mark as he fumbled with the chain. I watched as Mark grew more frustrated and began kicking the gate. "Hey, we're going," I said, motioning for Kenny to leave with me. "Leave then, Kenny. Kenny and I will go in and check this whole place out." Kenny looked at me. I could see the worry on his face. He didn't want to follow Mark, but he also didn't want to leave him. Kenny got off his bike and helped Mark with the gate. Guys, I think we shouldn't be doing this," I yelled. But they refused to listen. I watched in dismay as my friends knocked down the gate and slipped into the unkept yard of the old Ethan house. I was scared to follow, but a voice nagged at me. If something horrible were to happen to them, then I should be there to possibly help. As noble as the idea of saving them seemed, it was only strong enough to get me off the bike and trailing after them. It wasn't strong enough to erode the fear of getting in trouble. Mark and Kenny had already entered the house through a broken window next to the front door by the time I slipped through the gate. I ran to the thick brush, and was surprised to find corn growing in the yard. I didn't notice it from the street because the foliage was just so thick. I pushed and shoved my way through the corn stalks, receiving some scrapes on my arm and legs, but the effort finally landed me at the doorstep. The front door creaked open, and Mark stepped inside. "Get inside, buddy. We got a creepy house to explore." I brushed off my shorts and went inside. With only a few steps in, my body was engulfed in darkness. The thin rays of light that seeped in from the windows cast layers of shadow over everything. A persistent odor irritated my nostrils. The stench blended a familiar smell with something vile. The familiar scent reminded me of when I opened my dad's liquor cabinet, but the vile odor was something dark, repulsive, and evil. I took another step, and my shoe hit something that rolled along the floor to then clank against glass. Kenny shined a flashlight at the thing to reveal an empty whiskey bottle. Empty whiskey bottles piled on top of each other. The piles were frequent and appeared to run throughout the house. "The story is real," I said. Kenny and I shared a look, but he was silent. Mark, on the other hand, was breathing heavier. "Let's check out this mansion," said Mark as he slipped into a pocket of darkness. Kenny followed with his flashlight, shining it around. The walls were filthy. A strange mold grew at the bottom. Roaches crawled out from the holes to then brood in the corners. The ceiling sagged and appeared wet with the slimy mold. As we walked deeper down the hall, the stink of rot and decay grew stronger. We stepped into the kitchen and walked into a swarm of flies and insects. Kenny shined the light on an oven and immediately called my name. I didn't want to see what was inside. Hell, I didn't even want to be in the room. But Mark had his hands on the rod, and without any sign of disgust, Mark pulled open the oven door and released a stench of death like I have never smelt before. The smell was like being inside of the asshole of a dead and bloated Rottweiler. A mass of flies rushed out, maggots poured out, and behind it was a tray of decomposing puppies. Kenny and I ran the hell out of there. I stopped at the front door, but then Mark called us. "Come check this out," said Mark as he pointed to the slightly open door behind him. "I think we've seen enough," I said, hoping Kenny would agree. "I think we should leave." "I agree. I don't know if I could stomach any more," said Kenny. "Don't tell me you guys want to bail on me now. There's more to see," said Mark as he pushed on the door. "I think I'm getting sick," said Kenny as he held his stomach. "If you girls want to leave, then go. I'm staying," said Mark before slipping into the room. "I told you this was a bad idea," I said, looking at Kenny. "Yeah, well, let's get out of here." "Wait," I said, stopping Kenny in his tracks. "We can't leave him here." "What? You said it yourself that this was a bad idea. Let's just go." "This is a bad idea," I said as I clenched my fist. "But leaving Mark here by himself is not any better. We have to stay." Kenny stared at the door, fixated on his escape. He balled up his fists and lowered his head. "Fine. In defeat, we'll stay." Kenny approached and placed the flashlight in my hand. The piece of plastic felt light, but was slick with Kenny's sweat. Kenny pulled out the airsoft gun from behind his waistband and turned on the cheap tactical light he had attached to it. The cheap hunk of plastic produced a light that could barely penetrate the shadows in the old Ethan house. "I feel safer with this," said Kenny, as he motioned for me to lead the way. Kenny followed me as I approached the door. Cracks ran along the surface. The knob was rusted and it produced an eerie creak as I pressed against it. As I stepped across the threshold, the smell had changed just a bit. Underneath the scent of whiskey and piss was something that reminded me of a particular restroom at school. The restroom that was frequently used by a kid that produced vile, diuretic shits on every day. The shit stench hung in the air with increasing thickness as Kenny and I ventured deeper into the darkness. We found Mark staring at the wall that was more of a canvas than a wall with the numbers 5 and 1 painted on it with a dark, corroded red. "I don't know what this means," said Mark as he ran a finger along the wall. "Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it doesn't mean anything," I said. Brushing some dirt off the wall, Mark revealed more of the cryptic writing. I was curious of his find. Fixated my light on him as he frantically dusted off the dirt and grime. "Gross," said Kenny. I agreed, watching Mark use his bare hands to pick at the caked dirt and mold. It was absolutely disgusting, and if the scent of the room was any indicator, that caked up dirt might have been human feces, but I wasn't sure. After a couple of minutes of waiting, I watched as Mark backed away from the wall to then stare at it. Underneath the layers of filth was a sentence that was difficult to read, not because of the remaining filth and deteriorated wall, but because it looked like it had been scribbled by a child, or perhaps a man-child with pig hooves for hands. "What does it say?" asked Kenny. "No, it's not true," said Mark. I don't get it," Kenny said. Mark shook his head, placed his dirty hands on his hips, and said, "I don't get it either." The phrase, "It's not true," sounded familiar to me, but I couldn't quite place why. While Mark and Kenny bickered about the phrase and why it was scribbled on the wall, I searched my thoughts about something my dad had told me about Ethan Ralph. The rumor was that he was a drunk, but also he was short, like very short. Not that Ethan Ralph was as short as a midget, but he was real sensitive about his height. Without caring much about what the other two were saying, I blurted out, "It's Ethan's height." "Wait, what?" asked Kenny. "From what my dad had told me about him, yes." "That's pathetic," said Mark, shaking his head in disappointment. "Are you telling me Ethan Ralph is 5'1"? The room shook before I could even get the words out. The floorboard rumbled. The walls trembled. The dirt fell from the ceiling. "We need to get out of here," I yelled. Mark took a step to run, but something big and nasty burst out from the wall and grabbed his leg. The falling debris made it difficult to see, but whatever it was, filled the room with a guttural moan. "It's not true," the thing behind the wall said as I dragged Mark towards him. I hurried as fast as I could, grabbed Mark by the hand and pulled. Mark gripped my hand tight and demanded that I pull harder. With his voice egging me on, I tried to find the strength to yank him away from the enormous creature, but the beast was strong. And when I looked up to see what it was, it destroyed me. It was a monstrosity that shouldn't exist, something that defied reason and logic, a bulging mound of misshapen tumors of layers upon layers of pulsating pimples. Pus oozed from the ruptured pimples, mixing with layers of grease. "Pull!" Mark screamed. His voice reverberated in my skull, shook me out of my trance. I clenched onto Mark's hand and I pulled with all my might. I managed to gain some ground, but the monstrosity refused to let go. The creature tightened its grip. Rivets of grease trailed down its stumpy arms, creating a thick coat of gunk around its pig hoof hands. I thought all was lost and that Mark was going to become the monstrosity's food, when all of a sudden, pop, pop, pop sounded behind me. The sound of plastic pellets flying through the air raced past me, and the monstrosity recoiled in pain. Its grip on Mark grew weak, but I still couldn't pull him from its grasp. Though the monstrosity tried to fight through the pellet barrage, it eventually flinched just enough to free Mark from its grasp. Mark got back on his feet, raced out of the room, and I followed close behind while Kenny trailed behind. As we escaped from the room and headed for the front door, the monstrosity moved as quickly as it could catch up. I was surprised that a creature that large and obese could move as fast as it did, which really wasn't much faster than a one-legged man hopping around. I assumed that it was catching up to us because of its laborious breathing and snorting was getting louder. Then Kenny screamed for help. Mark and I turned. I couldn't believe my eyes. Kenny was being swallowed by the belly button of the greasy, cancerous mound of gunt flesh. "Get me out of here!" cried Kenny as he beat his fists against the enclosing flesh. Mark turned to leave. "Mark, we can't leave him," I said, but Mark had already gone through the front door. I turned back around and saw the fear in Kenny's eyes. Panic had consumed him, just as the monstrosity was about to do the same. Out of options and pissed off, I ran towards the gun and kicked it as hard as I could. It flinched. It flinched, and as it did, the belly button released just a bit. One kick was followed by another, then another, until my foot managed to hit one of the pulsating pimples, and the pus pocket ruptured, and the foul odor almost floored me. But it caused the gun to recoil in pain and release Kenny from its death trap. I grabbed Kenny's hand, pulled him back on his feet, and we ran out of the house. We hurried through the corn and thick foliage and made it back to our bikes. The monstrosity, Ethan Ralph, the gunt, or whatever it was, didn't follow. I could hear it cry out for liquor and trash cheeseburgers, but it wouldn't come out of the house. Maybe it couldn't. Maybe it really couldn't. Maybe this sort of evil, just can't handle the light of day. Maybe it's cursed to remain in that house. Mark and Kenny entered the old Ethan house because Mark wanted to explore it, and I followed to keep them safe. While friendship might not mean much to Mark, it meant something important to me, and I don't want to walk away when they could have gotten hurt. I saved Mark, and though he failed to pay it forward and ran away from danger, I don't hold a grudge. I just know that he's not the sort of friend I could rely on. But I'm not going to let his cowardice affect my ability to step up and save those that need it. Oh, look, friendship. The theme of friendship. Look at that. So a story of three kids that enter a house they shouldn't have gone into, and but they survive. They survive because of friendship. If the main character did not enter, they probably would have died. Could have just been a horror story in its own right, a creepypasta story, I suppose. But the little Ethan Ralph droppings were kind of interesting. If it could have been read in characters' voices, that would have been better. Some things would be tightened up. But, not bad. Not bad. That was The Legend of 5-1. The Legend of 5-1. So tonight, we've read some creepypasta. The Legend of 5-1. The Legend of Horseface. And we had some Gunt poetry in the beginning. That was okay. So what do you guys think of The Legend of 5-1? You think it's true? I mean, if you saw this house, think about what's going to happen here. Think about what this legend is about. The legend of the house Ethan Ralph lives in. Is it possible that Ethan Ralph's life could end with a murder-suicide? I maybe. But it seems more like it's going to be, honestly, it's going to be more like Bansu's going to leave him, get that child support money, and then Ethan Ralph is going to drink himself to death, maybe. But if Bansu for some reason stays, which would be Horseface, if she for some reason stays, it's going to, yeah, sure. Maybe one day Ethan Ralph snaps and beats her a little too hard. And then, murder-suicide thing sort of happens. I don't know. Maybe. I was working on a story that is not finished. Actually, I kind of wrote. I wrote the Horseface in this one. I could have tightened up the dialogue just a bit. But I thought it was fun. I wanted to include the puppies. Ethan Ralph gassing the puppies. The idea was to have the house be a gallery of all the shit he has done, but the ride kind of ended quickly. I could have had a room in there where his mother, where the remains of his mother were like tied up. That would have been sick. That would have been crazy. Sasquatch, sooner or later, Horseface will leave. Yeah. I hope so, for her sake. I mean, if she doesn't, then okay. She'll probably leave. Knowing, I did watch the recent kill stream. It nearly killed me. Okay. But I saw that once again Ethan Ralph is talking to another 17-year-old. Rumors got a groom. Always grooming. When he went to Vegas, he didn't go to Vegas with Horseface. He went to Vegas to first meet up with some 40-year-old named, what's her name? Jen? I don't know what her name is. He denied that. He denied trying to meet up with some 40, 50-year-old woman, I guess. But this person seems really obsessed with the Gunt. And he's had some weird messages on his voicemail. That was very suspect. So what I'm saying is, with the way Ethan Ralph behaves, yeah, Horseface is going to leave. Horseface is going to leave. That's why the Horseface story was written in its way. Or Horseface is the one who stabs Ethan Ralph and I guess drowns her baby in a very La Llorona. La Llorona? The legend of La Llorona. The Welling Woman. Well. Gunt Creepypasta, what I'm disappointed in is that there weren't many submissions. There weren't many people sending in stories. I guess, how do we write a story about Ethan Ralph? What do we do with that? One, it's kind of old material. Yeah, it's old material. So just have some fun with it, whatever. Okay. Plenty of stuff to use. Could have had a situation with Gator. Maybe with Gator and Ethan Ralph and maybe a Saw situation. Could have just been a torture porn thing. Or it could be one with Gator, where Gator's essentially like the puppet behind Ethan Ralph. That's not even true. That's getting too far into Fantasyland. Really what it would be is Gator would be pretty much a like a gimp, like a bondage gimp, like a groveling sort of subhuman creature dependent on Ethan Ralph, dependent to please him, to make sure that he's happy, do his bidding, so he can survive off of lemons, which is no longer relevant, or the little bit of attention he receives. that you can go with. You can go with the tension. You can make it where Gator has daddy issues. Maybe he was molested as a kid, which is why he gravitates towards Ethan Ralph, thinks Ethan Ralph is his dad, and, won't leave him. You have a lot of fun. Now, as far as what's going to happen with the next Deadman horror show, well, we could do another creepypasta thing, read some stories, some crazy stories, horror stories, or we can go deep into the mind of another serial killer or psycho person. By psycho person, I am thinking of Isabella Janke, but she's kind of old news now. But a deep dive into her would be great if there's some new material and more evidence, more information to back up a lot of the stuff. But a deep dive into someone who's mentally unhinged and a danger to society would be fun and very fitting for this show. So I'm going to leave it as a poll for over the weekend. Let's see what you guys, come up with. What you guys feel? Y'all want to do a deep dive into the monstrosity that is Isabella Janke? Or somebody else? Okay. You let me know. There's plenty of horror cows out there, and they're really fucked in the head. More psychotic, the better. All right. This Deadman horror show was a little quicker than I had planned. I thought it would take me a little bit longer to get through the stories, but that's what was planned. No reason to stall this any longer. When we do another Gunt Creepypasta or Creepypasta thing in general, what I'll do is I'll actually use submissions sent in that way. I'm gonna open submissions for Deadman's Tome, which, if you don't know what that is, that's the name I publish books under. On that site, on that stuff, social media and Facebook and Twitter, whatever. I'm going to open submissions, a submission call for horror shorts, that could be read for the purpose of reading them on this show. I want some good stuff. I want some really demented, creepy stuff. We got some fun. We could do like the cliche. We could do like the internet favorites, the creepypasta stuff, like Siren Head. Those Trevor Henderson monsters. We could do that stuff. Sure, fine. Or going to locales, like Ethan Ralph. Okay, or other horror cows. Talk about real horror cows. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of options here. So anyway, thank you all for listening and checking this out. I don't need your support and don't ask for it. As far as I'm talking about financial, I do not need to donate. I do not ask for that. All I ask for is that if you like this, you press the like button, and you know what to do. Everyone that talks about it, share, subscribe, all that shit. Same thing everybody else talks about. Money's getting tight. Some people don't even have jobs or whatever, and people are about to get kicked out of their home. But whatever. And we're probably going to have a war with China. So what I'm saying is, yeah, I don't need your money. Now's not the time to be asking for people's money. Just stay safe out there. And see y'all next time.